I am here to discuss the so-called flying saucers. We have received and analyzed between 1 and 2,000 reports that have come to us from all kinds of sources. Of this great mass of reports, we have been able adequately to explain the great bulk of them, explain them to our own satisfaction.
As I looked up, I saw two silvery objects moving swiftly out of the northwest. They appeared to be moving directly south. The objects were very bright and about 10,000 feet in the air. They appeared to be of a bright, shiny metal, like polished silver. Both were the same size and were traveling at the same rate of speed, which was much slower than the jets which shot by shortly after I filmed the discs.
You're getting readings on the tree you're taking samples from on the side facing the suspected landing site. 4 clicks max. Up to 4. Interesting. That's right where you're taking the sample now. 4.
With all due respect to the Air Force, I believe that some of them will prove to be of interplanetary origin.
Since the dawn of humans, we have cast our gaze to the heavens and marveled at the mysteries that were staring back at us. How often have we stared into the cosmos and pondered the question, are we alone? In the days following the release of the now famous Tic Tac, Go Fast, and other declassified UAP videos, many people have begun to take that question more seriously than ever before. As we enter the dawn of a new age in humanity, the skies once again have captured our attention and imagination. For many people, there is no debate as to the existence of non-human intelligent life. Witnesses all over the world have reported encounters with something that changes their perspective on the universe. Here, you will be presented with 3 such events. We are not asking you to believe or disbelieve, but instead are asking you to consider the possibility and reach your own conclusions.
Interesting thing about it, and sort of my introduction to C5 came more from the consciousness part, and so I had this sort of, like, how was I going to reconcile that with the disclosure part? And I finally, after being in Temecula, realized, oh, it's really the same coin. It's just the two sides. It's the same coin. And so that, I guess I'm sort of at that point of like, I can accept that, like all the other stuff that's going on, it's kind of like, almost like rising above it. Like saying, okay, this is what's going on, and it's ugly, it's bad, But it's like, yeah, but you actually have to raise your vibration above it to sort of get into the contact part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. I got into CE5 really recently because I've been online looking for information for an experience that I had 5 years ago at Joshua Tree. The experience I had at Joshua Tree was, I was with one other person, so it was like we weren't imagining this, but
Were you just hiking?
I was driving across country and I picked up this young man who had just gotten out of he was trying to leave a sober house. And I was getting him to his parents and his girlfriend who were living in Texas. And so that's kind of unusual, but I do rescue missions every now and then.
No, that's not
that's
unusual for me.
Yeah, so I had this guy, he was in his early 30s at the time, who was like a meditator. I helped him pack up the stuff from the sober house, and it was mostly crystals and all that sort of thing. And so he was very much into meditation, and we knew we could travel together. We had cleared all this with our family, everything was good. This was our first evening traveling. I wanted to go to Joshua Tree because I wanted to see the Milky Way. It'd been a while, since I've really seen dark sky. I wanted to see dark sky. He was like, okay, but we weren't going to stay there all night because we had to get to Phoenix. And so we got to Joshua Tree. It was like we just went right into our child, innocent, happy, carefree, joyful. We were just it was like kind of like a meditation. We were climbing on rocks till nightfall, kind of like this now, and we set up a little altar, which is interesting because of Dr. Greer's emphasis on altar. It was not a puja, but it was an altar on big rock, jumbo rocks, and we were just meditating and just. He had his guitar, and it was just like, I remember having this feeling of like, this is how I want to live. I just had that overwhelming peace, and the stars started coming out, and so we were just like, what are we going to do here? Like, what's happening? We're just really happy and joyful. And he said, he goes, one of my friends told me, in these, when you're looking at the sky, just to pick a star and make all the other stars just kind of separate from it, just let them go away and just focus on one star. I started doing that, and all of a sudden, the sky kind of became green, like this amazing green color. And I said, whoa, do you see that? And he's like, I'm seeing something. And so we were sitting there kind of cross-legged on this rock, and he goes, over your right shoulder, there is a neon bluish, electric blue, object that's shimmering. And I said, I saw a diamond-shaped object come in a little while ago. I said, I thought it might be just a car light, but now that you're mentioning that there's something here, I said, there's actually something over your right shoulder, And then it just sort of evolved that way. We just were pointing out these different things. We called them interdimensionals. We didn't know what they were. We just knew that they were really special, and that we both had this intense joy. Just the love, like what you described as that love. And near one of him, I remember saying, there's this kind of teardrop red object, and I know that that's one of the things that Dr. Greer talks about. In other words, these objects that we had been experiencing that night, including a green orb that sort of followed me to another site over a number of days. It followed me east. It wasn't around me all the time, but sometimes when I was driving, I was aware of that green. And it finally kind of went, and when I got to Stone Mountain was when it went into the lake. It's just found its, from Joshua Tree to Stone Mountain, which is another monadnock.
Did the light sort of following this?
It was there. It was there the whole time. It was mostly a visual thing for me at that point. It was a visual all the time, the whole time. Especially when I was driving, I was just aware of this peripheral green. And so when I asked Justice, Mike Justice, it was one of those, I said, I said, you guys are talking about this green thing, or sometimes it's red. He goes, oh, yeah, because those are orbs. He said, that's an orb. I said, okay, so I experienced it, but it kind of would go in and out. But then when it was at night when I was at Stone Mountain, I had a room on the lake at the base of Stone Mountain, and then it would just kind of expanded and went into the water. So I've had the orb experience, and I've had the lights appearing. I'm convinced, I've been back to Joshua Tree, maybe not the right time or the right people, but I'm hoping that with the right, find my tribe,
Sure.
other people who know how to get that vibe up. It's literally a vibe that we had going. We were, we called it by dimension, like whether it's, like sometimes you're 3, 4 dimension, 5, and we were like bumping it up, like 9, 13, like we were trying to get as high vibe as possible. But that is kind of when for us it started to kick in.
While we all await the official disclosure of the existence of UAPs and their pilots to the world at large, there are those who have grown tired of waiting and have decided to take their own steps to find answers by means of citizen science.
Oh, and by the way, I don't know if you knew, but tonight, actually every first Saturday of the month, but tonight is a global CE5 event, so this is happening all around the world. People are meeting like we are.
Mark Hagerling is the organizer of an all-volunteer group that seeks to explore the mysteries of our visitors using a method known as CE5.
I had this thought, here we go with the thoughts again. This is a couple years ago, of doing a guided meditation. I have no experience putting together a guided meditation, so I just thought, why do I want to do that? I don't really know what I'm doing, at all. And so, but I had this idea in my mind, what would be a cool concept. It was something different. It had to do with imagining everybody like a hot campfire with hot coals. And so the thing would be these things, there would be these hot coals, and to picture ourselves like that, and then it turns in, they get hotter and hotter the more they're together. It's just the concept I had in mind. And then they turn into a big fire, but if you separate them, they kind of go out, the way a fire is. Anyway, so I decided to do it, and I said, okay, I'm gonna do this, and then I'll have some music behind it, and I'll just tell everybody that they didn't want to get their expectations up for some great, prepared, guided meditation, so I said, no, I'm not going to say much. It's going to be more like a self-guided meditation, I'm going to give you a couple hints along the way, like, that's not exactly the wording I used, but just kind of now think about this, and then I'd be silent for a while. And now think of this, and then we'll be silent for a while. And we just did that. And when it was done, a little later on, there was 2 people sitting on one side, and the one lady was talking about how she saw these lights up in the trees, because she was looking around. Big trees like right up there. And the guy that was sitting beside her had his camera, and he was going back and looking through what he had just filmed. And what happened is he was looking at stuff before, and then he accidentally on purpose, I don't know, during the meditation, he just laid his camera down on his chest. But he forgot to turn it off. And so, yeah. And so when he looked at it, he's talking to her, and he said, I think this is like what you saw. And anyway, it turned out that something up there had put itself in front of the view of his camera, unbeknownst to him or anybody else. We were all meditating, and it did this thing on his camera. So had that to work with. And so it was one of those morphing, energetic, plasma type things. And so there's a lot to the studying of that thing. But it's as if they were aware of what the wording was that was going on in the meditation. Because I started off and I said, now, I don't know if this is a quote, but it's basically, I said, now, imagine yourself as a hot coal. And at that moment in the sky, in this video taken, with my sound recorded in the background, appeared this object. And you know, it looked a lot like a hot coal.
CE5, or Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, is a method proposed by Dr. Stephen Greer as a means of establishing human-initiated contact with extraterrestrial beings by the way of meditation. Dr. Greer is a former medical doctor and is one of the foremost figures in modern ufology. It would be easy to dismiss these claims as nothing more than fantasy, but the sheer number of experiences associated with CE5 protocols ignites the curiosity. With the cold chills of winter giving way to spring, Mark announced the first meetings of the new year. It was time to take the inaugural steps on an expedition into the beyond. What you are about to see is two of those events and the high strangeness that followed.
You might enjoy Dr. Greer teaches on the cosmology of the universe. I don't know if you've ever seen his videos on that, but he talks a lot about the different, his ETs and different kinds of beings and transdimensional this and angelic things and all sorts of stuff going on. So I'm sure it would hook into what you're experienced in some way. All right, so one of the things that we try to do is get people some idea of different things that can happen at these events. And so it's kind of a whole list of stuff that we could talk about.
One aspect of the phenomena that keeps recurring is the manipulation of electronic devices. Here you'll see some examples of bizarre behavior in electronics during the event.
And I'm going to show you this briefly too, because see this little thing right here? This little object? It's a radar detector, okay? And the ETs like to use their gadgets sometimes. If there's whatever's available, they will often commandeer it and do something if it's helpful, and like making a sound on it and stuff. And the way that works, where it's actually relevant, is again the context, the provenance, what's going on. So with them, if they just make a sound, a lot of times the connection is when they want to accent something. Oftentimes it's been there where somebody says something's really important and they go, anyway, that the thing has been sitting in my office on for the last week. Haven't heard a thing out of it, but before we started here, a little earlier, it went off. Just a little hello. You guys thought you heard it, right? So they like to use that and other things that we have. And so last month, I was sitting right here, and I was talking about this, right, and how they like to use these things. And I was explaining about how a common thing is the 3 beeps that kind of some we've come to understand, where a lot of times if they go boop, 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 it's understood as at the proper timing as we are here. It's just a really common message. And I was explaining that, and then I said, and they can do a lot more too. And then that was the end of that. About a week later or so, I was playing back the audio from these things, which I do. So just because you can't absorb what actually happened at these events a lot of times, just without some help like that. Anyway, I got to the spot where I'm talking about this, and I'm listening to the recorder that was made on this machine. And I get to there, and I say, and they can do other things too. Then a couple seconds later, I start getting this noise on my recording. And then I start hearing over top of me on the recording. And I'm thinking, that sounds like a radar detector. So let's listen to, oh, and here's the, let's see, here's the recording. No, that's not it. Where is it? Oh, here it is. It's on solo right here. So I looped and I put that recording that I just demoed with you. And I like looped it 3 times so you could hear it a little bit longer. Same thing, right? Same pitch. See what I'm playing there? Just playing this. Okay, so here's me talking about last month, sitting here talking about.
You can do other things too, but they got it right here in this room. Do that. Well,
Right. Is there any question that that's the same pitch? Anybody tone deaf enough that they can't?
I was going to say, I think in like the old movies when they had submarines or something, didn't they make that kind of sound too? I don't know.
Yeah, like a
Maybe.
sonar.
Yeah, something like that.
Let's bring out the pitch pipe, you know.
I don't know enough about them, but
There it is. That's the pitch.
You can do other things too,
It could do other things too.
but they got it right here in this room. Do that.
It's exactly the same pitch as
It's interesting
this.
how that static is on there too.
Yeah, there's static. I don't understand the static. Heard that a number of times, but maybe that's them doing some other funny thing. All right, here we are. So, if you take the real radar detector and you turn it on, first it makes some, and then it gives you an example of what it's going to sound like when it's actually being functioning. So I turn this off, and then I turn it on, and then you're going to listen. So you hear the last few, that's the sound that it makes through and through, you know, when it's detecting radar. It's designed, these 2 microphones, they're sitting in the room, and whatever sound is in there is recorded at the time. This thing was not set up. There was no radar detector in the room. I might have been in the box, but there was nothing there. So, provenance again. We're talking about it can do other things, and right at that point, that sound is injected into my recording. And it sounds like a radar detector. I was, to me, I was caught, what do you call it, convinced right there. Because first of all, the timing was right after I said, and it can do other things. So just some sound come on there, and I never get a sound on a recording added to these things, never. So just right there that's proof of something. So I'm sure it was not helpful for our self-training meditation, but
I had a really hard time trying to concentrate early.
yeah. Here's what it is.
that the radar detector? It's also funny that it seems to have control over the volume.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a volume thing on there.
Sometimes it's loud, sometimes it's
Yeah, is that normal? I don't. I'll check that out. Did it stop? It stopped. Thank you. Very much appreciated.
Said you're welcome.
We don't get it all, but we're
a radar gun in your pocket.
yeah, not sure what that is.
So do you, for the note B, do you know what octave it is?
Huh?
Do you know what the octave is for the,
Of that?
of that B?
Yeah, that is,
One through eight.
I do know which one that is, I forget what it's,
It's not the first one.
I guess from 0 to 100 probably yes. But anyways, they said don't really get the new ones. These ones are mostly sold in Japan and they go for 200 bucks. So it's a small investment, but compared to
so
the
I'd
new
step
ones,
over
you
here
can
and hear this a
lot
little bit.
better
It's
than
very,
65, so.
not very loud.
I think, maybe-
Stopped when I came over.
Just kidding.
No, you okay? You didn't stop. Thank you so much.
Every time you say something contradictory,
Yeah, every time they said, we're not stopping. Thank you so much. We're gonna do our thing now, okay? Yes, I get it, you're agreed. I'm going back now, I'm gonna sit down.
that's pretty wild.
I hooked it up and started using it because I wanted to see what was normal with its operation, and I also read the book on it. I mean the instruction manual. And I will say the main thing is that I learned is that how, and you probably already know this, but the basic way that it works is by how fast it ticks is supposed to be indicative of the strength or the power of the radar beam, which is microwave beams. That's what they use. They shoot microwave. So it's electromagnetic waves, but it's in the microwave range. And so it's the same as a Geiger counter. But the beeps, I mean, if you get this run short, I mean, if they're spread out, then it means it's a real weak beam. The faster it is, the stronger it is, and so that's how it works. And it makes sense because if they made it so that it got louder or softer, to indicate the strength of it, then and what if it gets too soft, you can't hear it, then you can't really tell what's going on anymore. Or if they attached it to the pitch, made it be low pitch when it's low power and high pitch when it's high power, they could have maybe done that. But if it gets too high, then it's going to be ultrasonic, and then you lose track of it. So the idea of having it be speeding up or slowing down makes sense because you can always hear it, and it's always, by the way, at the same volume all the time. It's supposed to be. It sounds louder if it's closer together, but the beeps are all the same volume, whether it's just one beep per 2 seconds or if it's 100 beats per second. So our thing was going up and down in volume a lot. And I don't know, there's something I have to check. There's a setting on the thing that makes it so that if it goes off really strong, it will be loud if it's turned up loud, and then it shuts it down after a couple seconds so that you don't have to listen to this loud thing all the time. And I don't know if our thing was just doing that because it was getting real loud and real soft, but it seemed like there were things in between too. Anyway, I turned off that feature, so next time we use it, it's not going to be going loud and then automatically soft if that's what it was doing. If it was just doing an inward thing that's set up, I don't know.
Just one more thing about this. Another thing that happens at our events, there's all these different audio things, or people feel things, they hear things, they see things. We were seeing lights, in the eyes. People hear things. A very common thing when people hear things is that they don't just hear it everywhere, but oftentimes they hear it in just one ear. I mean, not just in one ear, like, oh, I think it's more on this side. No, it's in one ear. So the thing with the radar detectors, a lot of times, or other gadgets, you could have like a whole bunch of them sitting on a table, and they start talking to the radar detector, but they only talk to one of them. They're all set up to detect the same thing, but they only talk to one of them sitting on the table. It's very common. So, funny thing is, I didn't even think about it with this, but turns out they only record on one channel also. And I can prove it because I got it here in my software. So how did they do that? If they're just coming and adding something, I have 2 stereo mics here, right? That's all I can do is record like that. So seen quite a bit of that going on. It even has multiple recordings, he said. So I never gotten a recording of it. Well, I did have sort of a recording of it once, but it's pretty. I'd have to get into the details on that and tell you about it. Yeah, clicking, and then so we added like. What I did is I took the audio, and since that's pretty good software, I said let's split the left and the right into separate files. So we're only listening to either the left channel or the right channel. The other way I could do is turn off a speaker, but we don't have speakers to turn off here. So I did this, but okay, so let's listen to it again. This is just the left channel. You can do other things too. But again, right here in this room, do that again. Same thing. What was the instance? Now, let's go and listen to the right channel alone. There we go. Oh, wait, it has to be solo again. Here we go. And this thing has some opportunity. It's not just that it does it, but it does it at a certain time. When something going on, and it just decides that it's going to use it, and it makes it like beep 3 times, for instance. We could do other things too. But again, right here in this room. I remember the whole story. Where is it? I don't hear it. But these 2 guys were here, and anyway, too cool, huh? Well, the click came when it was like totally visible. Yep. It was only on that frame. It wasn't there like when it was coming in over a process of like 3 frames. First frame was like a little light in the sky. Second frame was a little more sun. Third one was a lightish version of the thing that I call a shiny saucer. Anybody want to share anything? general subject, I guess, of what I'm getting at here is to, we need to be skeptical of whatever we experience. Not as a skeptic that just, I don't believe any of that. It's not like that. But things happen. We have got scammed once with somebody sent a drone up. We thought it was real once. We figured it out later on. But a lot of things happen, and a lot of things are real. You can see it here. This stuff is real. So, when you put all this stuff together, that's provenance. That's what are the chances? I could win the lottery. It's about the same chances. Do you have audio that's where you said things were garbled or slowed or? Hopefully, we're hooking up with that thing. We'll find out in a second.
This is an aspect of our consciousness is not what we are aware of. It is our capacity to be aware. We'll show during the next few minutes why this is so. But I wish you to consider, and beyond that, Mars and the rest of the planets. Filled with consciousness. The stars are all around. Our beautiful Milky Way is all around. Between our people and their people. Eyes and guide them to the location of your intended CE5.
That's typical too, that they tend to work with just one device. But if you could have more than one device that's all supposed to pick it up the same way, but it would only appear on one of the devices, that's common. But you have different kinds of devices, but still the weird stuff that you had happening was on your cell phone. Something's happened that's really stepped things up, it seems like. There's just been a lot of things going on.
Right.
Recently. I mean, we have events where, basically there's always something happens at a CE5 event for somebody. But sometimes that's about it. Something happened and that's it for somebody or a couple people or something. But this is a lot of things going on. I mean, it's getting pretty crazy. I say crazy. I don't mean crazy like bad. I mean, just really amazing. Okay. So I didn't even get to where I was. Where do I start? So, when I went to the audio for this last event and started listening to it, I'm trying to figure out where it finally dawned on me. But you see, on my audio recordings for the last year or two, I've been hearing these little passages of static stuff thrown into my recording. And I've never, when I very first heard it, I thought, is that ET's doing something? I don't know. It's just static, though. It's just like little clicky, staticky sort of sound. And that's just for lack of a more accurate term, because I don't really know what it is. I'm calling it static, but it's little, you could maybe relate it to what you hear on a radio sometimes when you're flipping the channels or something and you hear staticky stuff. Although it's not quite like that. Anyway, it seems fairly random. But I realized that when the audio was added to the recording that first time, that I made a big deal about the radar detector sound coming through, that happened just right as soon as the staticky sound came in, because, you know, it was a staticky sound, and then over top or behind the staticky sound was the sound of the radar detector. So it only happened when the static was going on. And come to realize, and also the staticky sound was only recorded on the left channel. And the radar sound was also recorded on the left channel. They're recorded together on one channel. And so that tells me that the staticky sound has something to do with it too. It's connected with the addition of the radar detector sound. So it's ET. Something with that sound is ET. And it's what I can see now is that whenever it shows up in my recordings, it's indicative of ET presence or ET influence or something, because it shouldn't be there. And it's only on the left channel always, or one channel. So what I've figured out is that all this time, there's been this little knowledge to know and realize, and maybe there's, you know, somewhere to go with it to understand more, that whenever I hear that, that's them, they're here. They're at least there at the time that's being recorded, and they're influencing my recording. So that's what I figured out. But now I have to go back and find the spot. I'm not set up to do that right now, and I don't know how to screen share, but I was listening to the recording from this last time, and I was hearing all the spots where there were that staticky stuff. And there was a certain point, I'm going to have to revisit this when I can say it better, but there's a certain point where there was the staticky thing, and then it changed into something very organized. It turned into like a little motorboat, you know, like a very even. I mean, it changed from something you think is disorganized to a very organized thing. The static is always, it doesn't have a tone. The radar detector always has a tone, a pitch, you know, like I determined that it was the same pitch. The staticky thing is more like percussive stuff, you know, it's just stuff. But it was doing its own weird thing, and then all of a sudden it turned into this steady thing, very, very steady. Is stuck out like a real sore thumb. Like, wow, that's not random, static, very organized. And then if I remember it right, it was right after that the radar detector started up in my recording, and never stopped until the end of the night. I mean, that's weird.
Yeah.
When you turn it on, it has like 3 or 4 different bands. And the sound that we are getting it always uses the X band. It never uses the K band or the KA band, because the X band has the nicest pitch. The other bands take and modify the pitch somewhat and kind of make it buzzy sounding. The K band, you can still tell it what pitch it is. If it goes to the Ka band, it really sounds buzzy. And so it's interesting that it uses the X band because it's the most melodic, the tonal pitch that you can. So I've been able to go to other people's recordings and hear the pitch. It's been an important feature to be able to do that. Anyway, this is deep shit.
We reached out to tech support for the radar detector. We informed them of the night's events and sent them audio clips to examine. They were quick to respond with the following.
That's a good 15-year-old detector, I think, with production ending 10 years ago. Having never used one of those older detectors, I'm not aware of typical audio noises and patterns with it, nor would anyone here that I could ask for you. Due to the age of the unit, it may be worth trying with another unit under the same circumstances if you have one. I can tell you there is a typical 30-second or more delay from the time the detector starts up and goes to the normal screen and the time it detects radar. This is even on newer detectors. I can also tell you that X-band is very old technology and largely not in use, at least by police, but you may find some automatic door openers that still use it. Most are using K these days. And also some traffic flow monitoring or other roadside systems may still use it for various reasons. In NC, I personally see X-band just before many interstate exit ramps, but that's about it. I have no knowledge of other systems, e.g. weather, defense, etc., that may or may not be using X-band. Though you may very well have found one, I can't really guess at what it might be. It could also be purely environmental, but I can't speculate as to what or why.
Since beginning the experiments with CE5 protocols, there has been no shortage of events that could be described as high strangeness. But the real treat came from the very first night, when something or someone decided to make their presence known visually, resulting in the most spectacular footage we have ever captured.
Brief flash of a bright light again.
It's not a bright light again?
Yeah, briefly.
Is it shining at your face or what? When your eyes are closed?
Yeah. So.
Just like a flash?
Yeah.
Man. We sure had a lot of that here in the last...
I said to myself in my head, and she said, are there any benevolent extraterrestrial presence here? And as soon as I said that in my mind, I see this thing flick just once. Right after I had the thought. I thought that was interesting.
Like as an accent?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's talking about that earlier, that at times. And, I mean, there's not much of a vocabulary there for an alphabet, to say things. So oftentimes they want to accent something that's like, yeah, right on, something like that.
There's a number of things that have gone on lately that I want to share with you about that could kind of take us along that path a little bit. It's fun because these are actually current things. So I'm going to get a little geeky tonight because I can, and I have some things to show you. And this is just from our last C5 event.
You just have to assume that everyone here has a sense of humor and adventure because otherwise we wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Who wants to put themselves through this? Oh, this is cozy. It's just that hearing people talk about suicide and hearing what these things through this, the amount of love that they have for their groups and for this process is astounding. What am I putting in?
Undercover representative.
Yeah, I wish you
Just
were.
your leg.
Yeah, this
I
is
mean,
my first time.
Yeah, you
chair
hit,
leg.
well, you hit my foot.
Oh. Let's see this here.
I think he's a controllable opposition.
Are we gonna go around and like say who we are while we're here? Have we done that yet?
I mean, we got till 9. I guess we got time.
I kind of like doing stuff like that. I think it brings cohesion to the group.
There's the latest report right there, the shiny saucer, I called it. And so it's a report on our last month, 6th of April, right? It's May now. And so we actually had a lot of things going on, and can't talk about everything. And what happened when I tried to write this report is I kind of got led sort of down a rabbit hole. It was not an ordinary report, because usually I have like a goal of what I want to share, you know, to bring out a certain interesting or valuable learning point, you know, concerning CE5. And this one I just started with one thing, and what I wanted to get to was the fact that our last 3 CE5 events, we've been having the same thing happen. Not the same, but the same general thing, and that as people been seeing when their eyes are shut, basically, or during meditation, where they see a light shine in their face through their eyelids.
Well, I asked Mark, was he close enough to have kicked my chair? And he said no.
No, I haven't been over there.
So it felt like somebody kicked my chair, and honestly I kind of just thought it was Mark accidentally kicking my chair, but he said he didn't. There was movement underneath my chair, and then like there's a brief flash of a bright light.
Were your eyes open?
No, my eyes were closed. So it was like somebody briefly flashed a flashlight.
And usually during the meditation, and it happened to me that first time, so it was 3 times ago, and then it happened at the next one. It was like a holiday thing, and we met in here. We sat over there, and when I told people about the last time that we got together and that happened, then other people spoke up then and said, "Oh, that just happened to me too." So there's this big thing I'm always promoting, and that is for people to speak up. Learn that early on, that it's like the key to making this thing work, because not everybody experiences things, and a lot of people experience something and they just think, "That's crazy, I'm not telling anybody about that, you know. I must have imagined it," or something like that. But it's very, extremely common, almost all the time, that whenever somebody experiences something, somebody else experiences the same thing. And if it's not just straight on they experience the same thing, it's like the woman who saw it in the trees I was telling you about, but the guy sitting beside her saw it in his video, you know? Or it's just some other strange thing, but there's some connection, so this way people don't feel like they're crazy, or people don't think that the person that's talking is crazy, you know, because it's, you know, you can imagine things. So they seem to be very, very aware of that, and very good at making sure that at least a couple people saw or experienced the same thing or something similar. And so we were out in the field meditating and listening to a guided meditation by Dr. Greer. You'll see that that's what we do. We basically play these guided meditations, and it's to get us together, and then we use coherent thought sequencing to help guide the ETs to our place if there's nobody around that knows where we are. And of course, it seems like, I mean, they're here now. I mean, that's, they already, it's not like nobody knows where we are, but it helps, and it's a good thing to do. And we might bring new people from other places that have not been here before by doing this. anyway, we were doing the guided meditation. There was this one guy this is the next time, this guy was, oh, I saw that. He's talking over the meditation.
I saw that.
Visualize this consciousness and this pure intention rotating up from the group in a great column of light, connecting with these extraterrestrial people.
Hi, my name is Austin, and I am, this is my first time being in a CE5 group. Came here out of curiosity, and last month was my first time. That was in April, and very, very cool experiences. So the best way I can describe what I saw was it was during our first meditation block, the meditation block being about an hour. So after we went through, we used the CE5 protocol, which was the frequencies of crop circle tones. And then after meditation, after all that was up, I noticed people in the group had started mentioning, I think it was just one person before me had seen a flash, one or two.
Is it like a flash bulb?
Yeah, I don't know the terminology, but that's what it was like.
Yeah, like a flash bulb, but it was more of the bright white light versus what I saw earlier was yellow.
Or ego, or personality.
You had a yellow
This
flash
consciousness,
bulb directly behind you,
this
Mark.
unbounded aspect of consciousness is with you always, whether sleeping or awake.
Oh, pretty fixed, that thing.
Mark?
Yeah.
It is unbounded.
Pause this for a second.
Sorry.
Speak again.
Yeah, we had a yellow, pretty large yellow flash bulb, yellowish orange, that was directly over you.
North.
North, yeah, probably about what? About, I don't know, 56, 55 degrees from my view.
Come back any?
I haven't seen it again. I'll keep watching.
Holly, you said it was, what you saw was pretty big, and it wasn't like a flash, it was more like a...
2 to 3 seconds, so yeah, not quite a flash. So,
But,
I don't remember what I said earlier, but yeah, and more yellow. I thought it was maybe a headlight of a plane, so I just waited a few seconds and it totally went out.
yeah, a lot of stuff going on here tonight.
But basically, I believe from behind me, which was south, we had shined lasers up there earlier, so that kind of, got me looking off in that direction.
I like to show the thing about the directions. I wonder, hey, it's shining pretty bright. See my laser here? I believe that's north.
Right.
And south. So that would be west, right? And east.
So I was patient, just waited a little bit, and eventually I saw this bright flash coming from above the trees, say southwest, well, that off that way, but it's this white bright flash
On board their spacecraft. Know that this is not a fantasy. Know that this is real. This is not theoretical or philosophical. It is truth, it is scientific, and it is reproducible. You can do that, and have no doubt in your mind that you can.
Yes, sir. She saw it earlier. Wherever that
Be
was.
aware
They saw it over there. I
that
just
the
saw
most
it
important
right in
aspect
my eye, like a white
of these protocols is the expansion of consciousness, the perception of oneness amongst the peoples in the group.
I know what they were talking about now. Later on, when we came back inside, I had noticed there was this like a dark spot in my eye. It's like some line-looking thing, curvy line-looking thing, and there was nothing up in the tree or anywhere near it that could have reflected. So it was coming from the sky, and that's my encounter I have with that.
Well-intentioned humans and those extraterrestrial peoples visiting our planet at this time in the Earth's history. This is a matter of great urgency.
Ooh.
And it is for that reason that our efforts
Did anybody
have
flash a
been
laser?
And will continue to meet
or anything?
With success.
Did anybody flash a laser just now or anything?
Oh, you saw that from your right over your shoulder, didn't you?
I saw a flash like straight up around here. I caught like a small.
No, I saw it. It flashed right into my eye.
I caught like a little corner of it on my screen here.
That's what I was talking about, but just literally, it was like shot right into my eyeball. I saw it from back behind y'all over those trees.
You saw it from behind the trees?
No, yeah, it came from, unless there's somebody in the very top of that tree shining a laser into people's eyes, I don't think there was somebody over there.
Okay, so.
If I shine my laser up here, can you tell if I'm in the right with this tree?
No, to the right. 2 over. 1 more. Yeah, it came from that direction.
That low?
It was above it. It came down from the tree. It ain't, yeah, like in there.
Right there?
Yeah.
Alright.
In the Earth's history. This is a matter of great urgency.
Ooh.
And it
We tried to debunk the mysterious object as possibly being a lens flare, but the only thing that came close was a laser. But there was a problem with the laser theory. In this clip, you can clearly see the green beam from the laser as it flashes into the lens. On the clip of the anomaly, there is no beam present. At this point, we had to consider the possibility that we had just captured a UAP on video.
Thing that I noticed, because he sent me a copy of the video and asked me to see it and see what I thought. The thing I noticed right off the bat was there's this click. Yeah, clicking, and then so we had it like 3 times sessions ago, where they were clicking like crazy, and people went, "You hear this clicking? We hear it over here and over there." And I said, "What, like this?" Yeah, like that, you know. And it was going on. We'd hear it here, and then we'd hear it there. And then the thing that was cool about it was that it didn't come from me. It's not like I said something and then everybody started trying to think, who do I hear clicking, you know? I didn't say anything about it. So they didn't know anything about clicking. So that was what was cool about it. So after they talked about it, I said, well, you know, there's clicking. The ETs that like to click. This is not the clicking ETs that's in another report. This is just a sound that showed up at exactly the same moment as the flash of light that flashed into his camera that he recorded, which looked like that, you know. And he sent it to me, and you know, you can interpret it any way you want. To me, it immediately gets into a whole subject that I wanted to get into, which is when it comes to seeing these different things, it's not just what you see or what you hear. That's the whole deal. It's the context, the timing, and something that Dr. Greer likes to, the word he likes to use is the provenance of what happened. So right here, there's a connection historically or context-wise, there's this thing that in the pre-meeting right here, like in this room, we were sitting here, and I made this big deal about how nobody's going to be seeing any shiny saucers in the sky anymore, at least for the time being, until we get this under control to stop shooting them down, the military that are doing that. So it's very unsafe for them to show up, and that's why you don't see people reporting. They see orbs and strange things and morphing this and morphing that, but shiny saucers, not that it's impossible, but if you do see a shiny saucer these days, 2024, it's probably a man-made one, you know. But I made this big point about how, you know, not going to see that. And then he takes that thing and he sends me that, and I'm going, that looks a lot like a shiny saucer. But to me, everything about that says shiny. It's like there's a light coming from the side, shining on it. When you think shiny, it's usually because there's some kind of light that's illuminating it, you know. And it's saucer shaped. So whether it's, you know, it's not even important whether this is actually a shiny, whether this is actually a UFO, you know. That's not the point. The point is, I said we're not going to see anything like that. And then this shows up 2 hours later, and for anybody that's got that in their mind, looks like a shiny saucer. Now, the thing is, I can just go with huge coincidence, you know, I can just let it drop. That's fine. But the more you start looking at these things, and you start seeing timing and context and provenance starting to merge together, then you have to go, oh, wait a minute, this doesn't really make much sense, that this could just be coincidence. All right. It's just the single event of this, so.
In the Earth's history. This is a matter of great urgency.
That's it.
That's something.
Just there.
It's not nothing.
Impressive.
Yeah. So, did you hear the click?
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly, and I'm going to show you in Pro Tools how closely lined up it is. And first of all, it's also, this happens, I can go frame by frame with this, so let me see if I can, yeah, here we are. This will move frame by frame. So this video is shot in 30 frames per second. So it's just like an old camera, but it's digital frame, so only 30 per second. So here's the first frame where it's starting to come into view. Second frame, third frame, fourth frame, there it is. That's what you get. Now, fifth frame is probably going to start fading out, right? Until it's like gone, right? Or maybe not. So what's in the next frame? Next frame, it's gone. Pretty cool, huh?
It looked huge too. But it does come back.
But just to make it weirder than that, in the next frame something else shows up. But it skips a frame first. Is that weird or what? And then this should probably though fade out after this, right? Probably. You know, next frame, it's gone. So this is all weird stuff, you know. It's one thing for some weird, just weird thing, mistake of some kind for the light to come up and look like that. For it to show up in one frame and the click to be at exactly the same time. What's a click doing there anyway? I mean, if I look out a window and a bright light shines in there, do I get a click with it? Weird, huh? I mean, this all says there's something going on here. But if that's not weird enough, let's look at my see if I can find my program now.
Was it as big as it looked then? Because I mean, that looks like it's pretty damn massive.
Yeah, it filled like the portion of the steering. That's not a close-up of it. All right, so here's the audio of Chuck's audio from that video. Should be. Let's do it again.
This is a matter of great urgency.
There's your click, right? So turns out that I was recording, of course, the whole thing too. So I have a tape recorder. Where is it? I record the whole evening on this thing. This is a field recorder, you know, and it's a stereo recorder. So you see there's two microphones on here. So it only knows how to record in stereo. Remember, I just said that. That's all I could do is record in stereo. And I was recording the whole thing. And so if it's just some kind of weird thing that happened, then it's a coincidence. What about if I check my own audio? So what I did is I took the audio of my field recording, which is right here, and I
Visiting our planet at this time in the Earth's history.
now I'm listening to my audio.
This is a matter of great urgency.
It's very soft because I don't have big speakers in here to show you, but turns out there was a click in there in my audio. See this here? This is my recording. Down here is Chuck's recording. But if I make them both play solo and solo, they're so well synced. Listen.
This is a matter of great urgency.
So that's two different recordings playing, and you can't even tell that they're two different recordings, right? So, and then his little clip is right here.
Great urgency.
See that? You hear it? If I just go here and I click onto, now what I did is I locked onto that spot. See this like thing here? It's like a thing that locates that. And if I go, so it's solo on this track. This is Chuck's recording. Let me play that again. Hear how it's right there? Now if I mute his, and go up to here, and I play this one, it's not going to be very loud, but try to hear. If you can't hear it, I'll speed it up. I mean, I'll bring up the volume, but listen. Did anybody hear it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's not his recording, it's my recording, playing the same thing. How is that possible? Because he's standing like over there. My thing is like here. They're not connected in any way. And I'm getting the same thing, not just like within the same region of time, like within a millisecond. How is that possible? So this is what I'm talking about with provenance and context. You know, to hear a little blip, you know, like, nah, it's nothing, it's just a little blip. But if it's in exact alignment with some other object that's in the room, and it's during this, and oh, by the way, a shiny saucer appeared at that very same time, that's a lot going on, right?
Close enough so that we can share our social security numbers.
This is interesting.
Okay.
My tri-field meter, it's moving like it keeps bouncing and then it stops, and then it bounces. I've got no electronics near this thing. I literally did it like 2 times.
Huh. It doesn't do that normally?
No, because if I put this, for example, this right next to it, it'll read it, and it'll go like in a straight line like that to read it. But I literally saw it go like this.
Like halfway up, back and forth.
It's just bouncing right through,
Hey y'all,
and then it stops.
back at a 45-degree angle, you got a triangle.
Where?
Back at south 45 from that laser direction, there's a triangle over there. There were 4 of them in a pattern. It's gone now, but there were 4 of them in a figure. Like, it could be a satellite paradigm, but I don't know.
Underneath that bright light?
No, it was up above it. He shined the laser where I saw the light come from. There was one satellite, and then there were 3 others in a triangle shape.
Like right through there?
Below there?
Yeah, down below it. Down. That's where it came from.
Right.
It went away really quick though, but there were 4 of them in a little triangle. Not a triangle, it was more like a quadrant, like a diamond or something.
We had mentioned in the session that threes, lights, flashes, sets of 3s flashing. And over the last month after I left here, I've noticed lights that I lived in an apartment for years and never had issues with lights. And I had this lamp near my bed that would start flashing in like patterns. Every time I would lay my head down, the light would flash a few times. When I lifted my head up, it would stop. And then I would lay it down again and it would start flashing on and off a couple times. Lift my head up, it would stop. And that would go on several times until I told it to stop, and then it did. So, and then at church the other week, we had lights flashing off and like strange stuff. Like that church, I've been going there for about 6 years. Haven't seen any issues with the lights. So that's why I brought that up. But those are 2 things that have happened this last month, and I don't know, some fun stuff. And I came here out of curiosity. I haven't been disappointed yet.
In the end, the big question remains. On the nights of April 6th and May 4th, 2024, was contact made with some form of intelligent life from beyond our understanding?
I think we've been in contact from the very start. Yeah, I mean, I know I've been in contact for a long time, so we were already in contact. And you just helped bring it out even more, and who knows what all you've been able to help open up by all the great video and audio you've been. I think you're just part of the continuing development of this whole thing, you know.
So what is it that is appearing in our skies? Extraterrestrials? Interdimensional beings? Time travelers? Perhaps all of the above? Perhaps even more. Perhaps there may soon come a day when these topics are unfettered from the realm of science fiction and are looked upon with eyes that see the potential for reality. Of course, it's hard to just accept something as more than just a story without having an experience of your own to analyze. Even then, it might be hard to accept. History is unfolding before our very eyes with each passing day. The truth is that if you really want to know if someone else is out there, you just need to look up and begin your own journey of discovery.
Well, I see it as there's a term they call dharma. It's kind of like what you're called to do, kind of thing. You know, what can you do to help change the world, bring the vibration up in the world, which is really what we're all about, is to raising the vibration of the world. We want to get ourselves from a 0 civilization to a level 1 civilization and then on. Right now we're still pretty much a 0 civilization because we're all fighting and trying to kill each other and all sorts of stuff like that. and we all have things that we can do to help.